today, our guest, we got Bradford Douglas. He's a recent grad of Beachwood, just also graduated from Ohio State, or the Ohio State University. And we are blessed to have David Arnold. He's a graduate of a class of '86. Am I correct on that, David?
Woo, yes. Seems like forever.
Hey, well, gentlemen, I want to thank you all both for being here. And we want to jump right in. So reintroduce you all to our community, to the alumni network, and let them know what we're getting done here. We're connecting our young people with our more recent, our past graduates, more recent graduates, and we want to make sure that they help each other in moving their careers forward. So first question I have for both of you guys, just kind of tossing this out. So how would you describe your Beachwood experience in one word?
Mine was enlightening.
Okay.
That's a good one. Mine, I'm going to go challenging, but I mean it in a positive way.
All right.
Yeah.
So why don't you elaborate on the words that you both chose?
So Beachwood was challenging for me. I came to Beachwood at first in the 4th grade. And so I transferred to Beachwood from a private Christian school. And so already there was a big culture shock for me while I sort of learned, just the social rules of, being in a public school with people whose beliefs differed from the ones that I held at the time. And so it was sort of socially challenging for me a little bit, but I got the hang of it by like late middle school. And then as I got into high school, it got more academically challenging because I took a lot of AP and honors classes. And, I was studying a lot. I was doing a lot of homework. It was admittedly quite stressful at times. And so I just had to sort of learn what worked for me and what didn't as far as school was concerned. But it was challenging. I grew as a person. I think for the most part, it was positive.
The complete opposite. When I tell you I didn't see an AP class, I didn't know about an AP class. I could tell you all the places to go cut class, all the places to where you're not supposed to be. If there is a corner in Beachwood High School, I can tell you, where you go to the swimming pool, there's steps that take you up back in that corner. Cut class sat in there all day. Like when I say, when you pull up, when you're entering into the school from Richmond Road,
yeah,
and you see that little ramp that looks like that concrete that's under it's like you kids would sit on that, sat there all day, didn't even go to school. Okay? How I graduated, I don't know. I think we have the complete opposite experience. It was it's funny you said challenging because that was going to be my first word. And it's funny that I chose enlightening and you said challenging in a good way. And I feel like mine was enlightening because it enlightened me to a different world. I too came from a private Christian school.
Wow.
To come to Beachwood, which was all Black. It's Seventh-day Adventist school called Rhema Junior Academy is where I went to school at. So I went to all Black school. Then I came to Beachwood, all white school, all privileged kids. And even though, like at the time when I came to Beachwood, all the Black kids lived on Beacon. They called it Little Africa is what they actually called it because they kept see how Bradford's eyes went up? That's what they called it because that's if you moved to Beachwood, if you could live in Beachwood in the 80s and you were Black, they put all the Black people up there in that one neighborhood. I wanted to live there because that's where all my friends were. My father was like, we're not going up there. They're not going to just put me in a corner. We're going to live right. And we lived on it in a different, I was the only Black dude at Beachwood that didn't live where all the Black people live. But it was enlightening to me because I learned how to deal with and learn how to be around white people, which I had never known before. And it's real. I mean, this is what people don't understand. And Black people, we talk about this all the time. We talk about code switching, where you can be with your friends, you can be like, what's happening, yada, yada, yada. And then when you get around a different group of people, you got to know how to carry yourself.
Right.
You have to be able to know how to wear two different hats. I learned how to do that being at Beachwood. I learned how to be, Beachwood is it was then a predominantly Jewish school. I'm in Hollywood now. Everybody who's here is predominantly Jewish. So I know how to be, I learned that skill that I didn't have. So like that I very good at, you know what I mean? And it wasn't a hard adjustment for me because my family was a very affluent family. I come from a family of physicians. I come from a family of very professional people. So my stepfather, when I lived there, my stepfather started a group called the OJs. So we came from a little bit of you know, we had a little something when we came, but we didn't, you know, but that was the thing that I took away from Beachwood. It took me a minute to, sorry about that. Tell him to stop. Tell him to stop for a minute. It took a minute for me to adjust, but once I got my footing, I walked away from Beachwood. It was some challenging stuff, but I walked away knowing that I picked up some skills that worked well for me better later in my life, for sure.
Okay. You know, you touched upon a couple of things that I want to talk about in this conversation here today. One is in both of your cases coming from Christian schools. So what made your families bring you to Beachwood?
So I got to do some memory digging because so after my parents sort of separated, my mom started looking for cities with good schools, and so Beachwood was and I'm sure still is very high ranked. And I think she had a coworker whose kid attended Beachwood, and that coworker had nothing but good things to say. And I visited. Oh wow! I just unlocked a memory I haven't thought about in a while. I remember visiting Beachwood for a day in like either late third grade or early fourth grade, and I shadowed someone, and I remember enjoying it while I like shadowed. And I think she largely chose Beachwood because of the good reputation that it had, and private schools were also very expensive.
Right.
I came here because my dad he wanted to live in a nicer neighborhood. He wanted to live, it was one of those things where, the school was good, but Beachwood was a beautiful neighborhood. And so we, and he wanted us to be in just a different type of atmosphere. And I think it was that too. I honestly believe if I was to talk to him, when you're a kid, you have a reason why you think you move. But like, I would think that he also knew that it would be good for me and us, my sisters and I, to grow up and be around a different group of people. Because you can't grow up and go through a certain area of life and not be able to interact and exist with everybody. And he wanted that for us. So that's, I feel like that was probably, I wouldn't be shocked if he said that was one of the reasons why we came to Beachwood.
Okay. Now, one of the other points that both of you brought out was challenges and opportunities. I think Beachwood presents that in particular for our students who come from minority groups. I think that's a big deal for you. So I want each of you to talk about it. David, why don't you go first and talk about those challenges and opportunities for you attending Beachwood schools?
The challenge was, when you're one of the few minorities at a school, it gives you challenges that you just don't think that you expect to have. That, you know what I mean? Like, and I didn't even now when I talk to some of my friends who I keep in touch with, to learn that their mindset of what their mindset was and what their parents' mindset was, even back then, you're not like, I don't know that I was ever faced with blatant racism, but it was definitely there. And now I look back on it in adult eyes, I could see it, and so that was, it was a challenge to have those kind of moments. It was a challenge to be in a school where, they like, where the girls, that was the first time where I realized girls would say things to me privately, but wouldn't say things out loud.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like all these girls would be in your face, but it's like, oh, my parents can't know. I can't talk to you in public. You know what I mean? So like I dealt with all of that kind of stuff. That stuff was,
right.
Opportunity wise, I left Cleveland when I was 18 to come to California. Okay. So, I kind of separated from Beachwood after I graduated from high school. And I just recently connected with a lot of people you know, since honestly, since and I'm not saying that it's because of this, but like when you hit a national stage and people can find you in social media, you
Right.
get in touch with people again. And so therefore I've had a chance to connect with some people that I haven't in a long time. And it's been great to, actually talk to some of the people that I haven't talked to in a while. And it's not many, it's only a few, very small handful. But, for me, it made me see two sides of the world. It made me realize who I am. It made me realize that I'm Black. It made me realize that, not that I didn't know I was Black, but when you're around all white people and it's a different, it's just a different, it could be a different set of rules. It could be a different experience for you. And that was real for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was real for me. And I didn't realize what it meant and what it became until I've gotten much older now, and I look back at it and I go, wow, that's why I went through all of this stuff that I went through there, because it's made me who I am now.
That's awesome. Bradford, you want to share your story?
Yeah, there's so much to address. Where to start? I guess I'll start with the challenges. So I mentioned getting socially acclimated was already sort of difficult. One of the issues that I ran into, another sort of interesting opposite from David, was that since I was sort of the nerdy Black kid, I sort of ran into the issue of acting white. Kids accused me of acting white because I was not a big user of, African American vernacular English, or I didn't really listen to rap or hip hop. I was the Show Tunes kid, or, Panic at the Disco or whatever. So I was just, my interests did not align with that of many of my Black peers. And as such, there was a barrier, I guess you could say. And during my lower years, that barrier felt kind of lower with my white classmates, but there was still a barrier nonetheless. Like, there were certain jokes that might be made that I was like, didn't like that, but I'm the only Black person here, so let me not make a fuss. So as I got through my high school years, my closest friends ended up being other Black nerds, so to speak. I made close friends with my friend Devin, who was another, AP honors kid, my friend Jessica, who's in med school now. Like, I made friends with other Black people who had interests and just similar, I guess, personality traits to me. And to this day, those are still like my closest friends from Beachwood. So I think in terms of race anyway, Beachwood sort of, like you said, taught me how to interact with all sorts of people, but also sort of taught me how to find the people who looked like me, whose, I guess, interests and, values I shared. And then in terms of opportunities, I associate a lot of my opportunities to you, Mr. Houchins, because you got me my first 3 jobs.
Wow.
Yeah, because you introduced me to the Moto Photo people, and then I did videography for Moto Photo through I want to say summer 2017, and then I filmed varsity football and varsity basketball. I filmed varsity basketball all 4 years, and then I filmed football sophomore through senior year. And from there, when I got to Ohio State, I started working for the Big Ten Network, and I did videography for the Office of Student Life. And both of my bosses at both places were like, you're heads and shoulders above everyone else in qualifications because of all this work you did in high school. So I think as far as opportunities go, professionally, Beachwood helped give me a leg up. And then it also just sort of helped me to find my voice, so to speak. I think your class was very helpful with that. And then I also think Mr. Harvan's English classes were very helpful with that, because for better or for worse, his standard was very high, and I was just, determined to meet it. And in doing so, my writing improved substantially. And, now I'm an aspiring screenwriter, an aspiring comedy writer. And so I attribute a lot of the roots of where I am now to the start that Beachwood gave me.
That's amazing. I think it's so dope to hear this, because none of this existed when I was around. Mm-hmm. So to be able to hear you say that you've gotten this type of springboard from a place that I was at, that I feel like I got some life lessons, but you know what I mean? But nothing like what you've gotten there. I think, and to even have a staff member like, Kevin, to be here to push you and to give, that's a blessing. You know what I mean? And it's also a further reflection and reminder of how we have to keep moving forward. And like between you and I is 30 years, you know, literally. And that to see this little bit of progress is dope. And I think that when you know, Bradford are in a position to be able to reach back and do the same thing, hopefully you push it. It's not 30 years, it's 5 years from now.
Right.
I mean, when you're in a position to, like, I'm in a position to try to help people who want to do things. So I think that's dope. I think it's dope to really see this, because I didn't know what to expect, but this is very cool.
I appreciate it. And actually, to be honest with you, I want to get out the way a little bit. I want to give you and Bradford the opportunity to have a conversation, to connect, because that's what this is all about, is connecting our alumni. And Bradford, kind of pick your brain a little bit about the, you know, because he wants to be in the same career field that you're in. And so give him some advice. Bradford, it's on you, buddy.
Cool. Yeah. So I watched Fat Ballerina 2 days ago, you know, to prepare and get ready to ask you some stuff. And I was just,
my Netflix special that people who might not know.
Right.
And this is my latest Netflix special that just came out. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, as I mentioned, in college, I primarily did sketch comedy, but I did perform with the Buckeye Stand-Up Club. And I stand up 3 times because you had to perform at 2 open mics to perform with the club. So I did my 2 open mics and then I performed with the club. And when I did that 3rd set, I sort of consolidated the best jokes from the 2 sets that I did privately or at the open mics into one, you know, big set. And so I guess I wanted to ask you what your process was for how Fat Ballerina came to exist in its current form, you know, how you decided what jokes to cut, what to keep, etc.
Well, it's that same, you know, process of what you just said on a much bigger scale. You did 3 sets, you took 2 of the 2 best moments from 2 sets, put them into one.
Right.
That Ballerina is a combination of 25 different sets, 1,500 different performances, all packed into one. I mean, we actually cut out that night I performed. I did 1 hour and 20 minutes on shows. We cut out 20 minutes of each performance, and those are 2 shows that are cut into the best moments of one, which is how most specials are done. But that's, as a comedian, you know, and I teach the largest stand-up comedy class in the country. I started doing it like 10 years ago. And it's so big that like my waiting list is like, I have like well over 300 people. My assistant said we're like at 300 and something, which I didn't even know there was 300 comedians in the country. But, you know, it's the same thing that I tell everybody. Like it starts with an experience and an idea or a point of view about what you think that experience means to you and what you think is funny about it. And then I just go and I tell those stories, and I tell those stories again and again and again. And I just pluck the moments from those, you know, and I condense them and I do it again, and it gets tighter and it gets better and it gets funnier and the jokes get closer together. So like literally when I did Fat Ballerina, I went on tour, and I was on tour for about a year straight. And I went out and I recorded all the sets. And like, there's sometimes you'll go, you know, I'll be at a club in Cincinnati. I'll be at a club in DC for the whole weekend. I'll do 5 shows, and you know that's an hour a night, you know. And I will walk out of that weekend with 3 minutes that's like fire. Like this is it. Like this is like I've told a joke 1,000 times, and it's that 1,001 time that it happens. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was my process for for Fat Ballerina. When I did it, I just went out, I performed this set versions of that joke again and again until I got it to where I wanted it. And then we recorded it, and it came out, you know, and the special did really, really well. Yeah. And I'm very happy with it for what it was. I did that myself. I shot that in Cleveland. I hired an all Cleveland film crew.
All right.
I did all of this myself. That was not a Netflix original. That was a special that I did on my own. Kevin Hart, who happens to be a good friend of mine, and my manager, who happens to be a very well-connected person, said, if you get something good in the can, we will get behind it. I came to Cleveland. put it in the can, and now it has what it, what you saw that to be.
Right.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, that's amazing that all that came together and you worked so hard and you were happy with the result. That's really cool.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. My next question sort of springs off of that. It sort of gets into your philosophy as an artist. It's a lot easier said than done to not care what people think, especially in the entertainment industry, where reviews and opinions can influence your career trajectory. So I wanted to ask how you balance being true to yourself while also trying to broaden your audience and satisfy the gatekeepers to some extent.
Man, one of the best ways to try to broaden your audience while staying true to you have. It's weird because you have to stay true to yourself, because if you don't, you're going to get a watered down version of who you are. Right. There are going to be people, I tell people this all the time when you're doing stand, like, here's another thing. This is a perfect example. I built two things were happening at once in my career. I've been doing stand-up for 23 years, right? 24 years. And then about 2 years ago, I started this social media journey where I started posting stuff on Instagram, and literally in a small amount of time, my social media platform went from 0 to millions of followers. But over all of these platforms. And I do one thing, me and my wife and my kids over on social media, and then my stand-up is much edgier, and I talk about, you sell a special, I will talk about sex, I will go hard in a different, it's the same guy, but it's a different temperature of guy.
Right.
And when my special came out, the people who know me from social media with my wife and kids saw the special, ooh, the language. Ooh, and then the people who know me from my special came over and saw that I had this presence on social media with my family. They went, oh, wow, there's another side of you. Right. What is consistent in all of that is I continue to stay true to who I am. You can't make everybody happy.
Right.
I can't. My mother, I've been doing this long enough that you're going to say things that are going to offend your mother. You're going to offend your wife. You're going to offend your friends. You're going to offend. Everybody's going to get offended if you stay true to your real thoughts. That is inevitable. Yeah. So whether you're expressing yourself through writing, whether you're expressing yourself through stand-up, whether you're expressing yourself through music, it doesn't matter. You're going to offend somebody along the way, because nobody is you but you. So my thing, I've never worried about what everybody else thinks. I have sponsorships with Jack in the Box, and I can't believe it's not butter. And I had Disney just up until about a month ago. I was in negotiations for my own TV show at Disney. And the president of Disney called me. He was like, I watched Fat Ballerina. And I was like, ooh, you still want to do a show with me? Because I was born in, you know what I mean? It's the complete opposite of Disney's brand.
Yeah.
For 1 second, I was worried.
Yeah.
And then it went away, because you know what? I got to be me. You are on the phone talking to me about doing a show with me because I am who I am. So I can't start trying to be somebody else in hopes that I hope I don't offend the people. You can't do that. The best advice I can give you is to find your voice, be who you are.
Yeah.
Be you. Because there's no better version than Bradford Douglass.
Yeah.
No better version. I'm telling you, everybody around you that doesn't get it, that don't see it, that they're not here for your journey.
Yeah.
Your journey is your journey. And the moment you embrace who you are and you let everybody else fall away, through the roof you go.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Fantastic.
Cool. Thank you. It was another super insightful answer. On the topic of versatility and sort of, having different, personas for different platforms.
Yeah.
I was looking at your IMDb credits and saw you've worked on Fuller House, and then you've also worked on those Tyler Perry shows. So
yes,
I was curious, what was the work environment like comparatively between those two programs?
You know what it's like? It's like what we talked about. It's like going from in this moment. This is perfect, because This is what I was talking about when we talk about going from a black school to Beachwood. That's why I'm able to do this. That's why I can sit in a room with all the black writers at Tyler Perry and talk and and then get up. At one point, there was a show that's on now. It's on BET Plus Bigger, right? And we're filming that at Paramount, and I would leave Paramount, all black writers room, black show on BET Plus. I would leave there and go to Warner Brothers. Same day, sit in a room full of all white writers and write Fuller House. Yeah. And literally, and I could exist in both of those worlds because I have this experience. We black. You ain't gonna never not be black. I don't care where I don't care how many white friends you got. You always at home, Thanksgiving, we black. Right. And you have that experience. Then you now have this experience where you've existed. You went to Ohio State, you went to Beachwood, all white, predominantly white. So you know how to exist in these two worlds. Yeah. That same experience is the experience that will allow you to work on anything you want to, as long as you have the confidence that I am who you. And we always get it from black people too. We always get it from our own people worse than we get it from anybody. That's always the case. I grew up going, oh, you sound white. I got that my whole life. I even in stand-up, even when I started doing stand-up, when I came out here, there's black comedy rooms and white comedy rooms. When I first started doing black comedy rooms, they was not having it. I had to learn how to perform in front of my people. Right. You know what I'm saying? But as I got better, I realized I can do both of these because I have experience from both of these worlds. I have the same experience in me that you have because you've been through these two, you've come up in two different worlds that are different. In a way. That puts you at an advantage. You know what I mean? And it's perfect. So, you know, that to me, that I'm able to do it because of my link right back to what Kevin was saying, because of going to Beachwood. That's why I can write Fuller House. That's why I can write all of that. I can sit in that room and go, let me see this is what they think is funny over here and do it. And then go to BET or Tyler Perry Studios and write a whole nother show because that's my grandmama and my aunties. I can do that all day long. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's easy. That's easy to do. So yes. Yeah, man. So I think that you know, that I think the questions you ask show me that you have the right mindset too to even do this. You know what I mean? Which I think is kind of dope.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
David, I know you got time. I know you don't have a lot of time, so I want to make sure I respect that. Sure. But I got a couple things for both of you that I really think are important, especially based on the content of what you talked about here together. And one thing I want to ask both of you is, what would you tell your younger self that you understand about your journey now?
It's like where to start. You know, it's a complicated question because, like, I think back to young me. Like, I know what I would tell him. The question is, would he listen? You know, like it's that whole thing of you're probably going to have to experience the hardship that I experienced in order to get to where I am now. If I just told you, you'd roll your eyes. But yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice I'd give to high school me is calm down, because I was a very high-strung, uptight person in high school. You know, I was stressing out about the grades, stressing out about whatever social life things were bothering me at the time. And, you know, here I am in 2020 and none of that matters. And I don't really remember the bulk of it. So yeah, my biggest advice would be, continue to take things seriously, and you want to build a strong foundation and future for yourself. But like, one bad grade from time to time will not ruin your life. Don't cry. Just don't cry.
I would tell myself, get one good grade in your life. How about you not get all D's? How about that? How about you get your together? It's so like literally. It's so funny that you asked this question, because I'm gonna tell you a story It's quick. I was in Beachwood. I was out in front of the new gym. They still got 2 gyms in there?
No.
Okay. No, it's one gym, just the new.
Well, it's a new auxiliary gym. Like when you come back, you'll get to see everything. I'll show you everything.
What used to be the new gym, where all the pictures of the football player, all the athletes over the years are in there. I was outside there. I might have been a freshman, and I was playing football. And one of these senior dudes came by. I don't even remember who he was, but I just remember him telling me, "Calm down. Like all this, you got so much time. You got to relax. You got to chill. You focus. You two all." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, okay." And of course, I did none of it. And so, like, I remember all of those things the stranger said to me, because he was a stranger to me, for all intent and purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about that conversation so many times in my life over the years. I would probably say the same thing to myself. I would probably tell myself that I'm stronger than I know that I am. That I need to. That the things that you think that you don't want to do right now, that you think are stupid, you're going to need those things later on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you probably need to listen more than you talk. That would probably be the things that I would tell myself, because in spite of the things that I feel like, the opportunities that I feel like I missed, I've made up for them somehow, in my life. But I can see moments in my life now where, man, I can connect this back to something that I did not pay attention to and take advantage of when I was in school, which would make this moment much easier if I did. So I would probably that would be the advice I would give myself, to just slow down, talk less and listen more.
I got one thing that I want to give you an opportunity for both of you to say, if you want to talk about either a memorable moment you want to kind of touch upon, or if you just got something you want to share with folks right now that are tuning in, who haven't seen you in a while, who just want to know what you're doing.
Long term, I'm planning to move to Los Angeles to pursue comedy writing, and I can't get out there soon enough. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, the snowstorm that we just had, right?
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you what I remember is when I first came to Beachwood. I went to Beachwood Middle School, 8th grade, and I remember auditioning for a play called West Side Story, and I did it because this is how I got into it. I was walking by. And they were like, I was like, what's everybody going in there for? And they were like, oh, they're about to audition for a play. I was like, oh, I want to audition. So no intentions to audition for anything. I went in an audition. I got the role of Bernardo, right? Which was one of the leads. I didn't know anything about the play. I didn't know anything. I met Madam Lucia. She was my drama teacher.
Okay.
She was my drama teacher through the rest of 8th grade and all through Beachwood High School. That was the only thing that I was interested in. Her and my creative writing teacher in high school was Miss Santa Lucia. I remember these two people, Madame Labasi and Miss Santa Lucia. That was her name. Madame Labasi was my theater teacher, Miss Santa Lucia. And those were the only things I was interested in school, that and playing basketball and football. Nothing else. When I tell you nothing else, I give a damn about in school. Nothing. Mm-hmm. And now to be out here in Los Angeles, 20 years later, 25 years later, doing this, and now I make a living, my Netflix special that I have a deal for a new one. Since COVID hit, I've sold 5 TV shows. I'm developing 5 TV shows. I'm currently producing one for Nickelodeon. I'm writing another one with Will Packer. I'm writing an animated show for Anthony Anderson.
Okay.
What is the other one? Oh, there's a comedian named DC Youngfly from a TV show called Wild 'N Out. I just sold a show to Netflix for him. I'm writing that show. I have my own show that I'm developing that's being written and produced by Kevin Hart and Lena Waithe at Amazon. And then me and my family have a show that we're developing for a reality show on OWN. All of these things happened in the last 5 months since March, since we got locked down. And for me, it's a testimony of I've been out here grinding for 24 years to get to this place to finally have these opportunities. So when I'm busy and I'm like exhausted, I remember and I can connect all of this back to that thing that I felt when I started doing theater in Beachwood.
Wow.
Because it was that thing that like made me go, oh, wow, this lights me up. This makes me care. You know what I mean? And that nothing has given me that except for what I do now. So I can connect those two things. So for me, that's the part that's dope about, you know, the memory of school to connecting it to where I am now. I still have that same drive that I remember clearly started at Beachwood.
I got so caught up in mentioning what I'm doing now, I forgot the memory part of the question. Most of my sort of career epiphanies happened when I was in college, because when I was in high school, you remember I went back and forth between TV production and psychology, Mr. Houchins. But in the interest of past parallels to now, when I was a freshman, do you remember when we would have to take our trays up to that little dish window to like, you know, return our stuff? So when I was a freshman, I was talking to my friend Sophie, and I wasn't watching where I was going. And you don't know this, David. I'm 6'7", and so when I'm
yeah.
Oh shit!
Right. So when I'm looking forward, the immediate ground is not in my eye line, and some kid left their backpack in the aisleway, and my feet got tangled up in the backpack, and I went down. Like I face planted in front of this table of popular seniors, and I just knew my social reputation was dead. And so the parallel to now is that yesterday walking into work, I did the same thing, but on ice. Walking into work, and I thought I had it. It was one of those situations where it's like, oh, I'll just grab the wall. And then I was just horizontal. And I've been sore ever since. So I'm a mess now. My friends still call me Timber. It's fine.
I like that one. Raph, you held that one back for me, man. I'm kind of mad at you. I should have known before. The story I gave you, you supposed to give this one to me, man.
You're right. I owed you that one. You knew.
I appreciate it. Well, gentlemen, I thank you both for spending your time with me today. I hope that our audience will tune in for our next episode of Beachwood Connects, where we connect our alumni from the past, recent, and our future graduates from Beachwood High School.